Welcome, welcome, welcome. How is it going? It is August 6th, 2025. This is the RambleCast. I'm your host, Cody Toombs, and with me I have Corbin Davenport.
Hello. I already did my wave, so you got a second free wave.
The free wave.
Everyone do the wave.
So, how's it going to Alyssa, Diablo, Carson? I see all three of you hanging out in chat. Let's see. Yeah, 2 weeks until Made by Google. At which point, this isn't even on the topic list, but rumor has it there's maybe a delay in the Pixel Watch and Pixel Fold, if I remember. Is that right? Or is it Pixel Watch and Pixel Buds? I know the Pixel Watch was included. I'm not sure what the other items were, but yeah, so presumably just the main phones for sure will be available on time, which on time is still going to be like 2 weeks after the event probably. So
I can neither confirm nor deny anything relating to Made by Google. No comment from me.
Indeed. So without getting Corbin to violate any NDAs, point is
That may or may not exist.
Okay. You do know that we know that the event is happening, so I
May or may not exist.
yeah, fair enough. Okay.
Google might not exist. I don't know. I couldn't say.
Well, give it a few more years. Google might not exist if the EU gets their hands on it. Hey Austin, welcome. How's it going?
Howdy. Howdy.
So, let's see. Anyway, yeah. So Google will be mining deep into a few pockets in a couple of weeks. Not mine, because I don't have the money to give them. But if a good trade-in offer ever comes up, I'm on that. Anyway, so let's see. Google is just in our imaginations. So, well, while we will be coming back to talk about Google later, at least kind of, let's instead talk about Apple right now. Because Apple did a funny thing. Hey Nils, how's it going? Apple is bending the knee. They are pandering to the current administration, and they have committed to bringing more manufacturing into the United States. Now, technically, they were actually already doing some of this manufacturing. Sorry, I'm jumping a little ahead. Specifically, what they're going to do is, in collaboration with Corning, they're going to make 100% of iPhone and Apple Watch screens, the glass covers, in the United States. Now, one thing that actually wasn't clear to me from the article, and I have a feeling it's probably intentionally unclear everywhere, is whether or not this means 100% of all iPhone screens, or is it just going to be 100% of the screens for iPhones that are going to be sold in the United States? Because I have a feeling it's probably the latter.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't see how they could do that scale. Scale it up, at least not over the course of many years. And I don't know if it would really matter if it was for iPhones for America, because I'm assuming they would make the glass here and then ship it to China for the final assembly. So at that point, it doesn't really matter like where the iPhone is heading next. You just got the glass over there and you use it for whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't imagine they would like be marking it for specific places or not. Not like the the Mac Pros that were assembled in America once upon a time, which the final assembly of those was actually here because
Yeah.
they were mostly made elsewhere, and then someone screwed it all in Arizona or whatever.
Yeah, which was a trivial process, so who cares? I mean, they sold about as many Mac Pros as I don't know, name a company that makes like high-end supercars. Uh I know they certainly sold more than that, but not by that many. Like the number of Mac Pros that they sold after the initial batch was really about uh, it was so few that they could pretty much get away with just like probably having like one person do the assembly and not really worry about it after that. So anyway, um yeah, anyway, so what's happening is they have committed to spending 100 billion in the United States to ramp up manufacturing of these glass screens for the phone and the watch. This is supposedly, and I mean it's pretty obvious that this is true. This is basically um, to appease Trump and get Trump to relax tariffs on Apple. Um, I'm sure it will work at least for a little while, and then the mob will want more protection money. But you know, that's just how the game works.
Well, it works until more tariffs kick in for any of the countries where any of the parts of an iPhone or a Mac or something else come from, which could, be next week. So,
Right. So, yeah, I'm not really convinced that this is going to matter all that much anyway, because even if they're ramping up production of glass, look, I don't know how much of the cost of an iPhone that really made up, but I have a feeling it's relatively insignificant. And objectively speaking, it's probably also not going to require that many people. So I don't really believe that this is going to be a huge job creator. Even if it is, oh well. Uh, I mean, it's going to be jobs making glass, which that's fine, but I'm not sure that that's the most transferable of skills. So when this administration ends, how many of the people working there are going to then be able to take whatever skill they have and turn it into something else? Because let's be honest, once this administration is gone, that production is probably going to go back somewhere overseas, or at least partially go back overseas, because uh, anyone who read more details on this, you probably already saw the bit where some of the glass manufacturing was already taking place in the United States. Now this would basically raise it to include all of the iPhones and Apple Watches. But what we're talking about is percentages, and it kind of just looks like they're moving this in so that they can make that claim. And like I said, I think it'll be gone as soon as Trump's gone. So kind of not holding out a lot of
or
hope here.
never fully built in the first place.
Yeah,
Because we
that
heard
too.
this happened all the time with Foxconn, and I want to say, I guess maybe Intel. I'm not entirely sure what they're up to at this point, but like this has happened a lot where companies say they're building manufacturing facilities in America, and it never gets very far, and then they eventually give up after everyone's like not really paying close attention. So who knows?
Nils is okay. So Nils is saying that Apple did specify every iPhone and Apple Watch sold worldwide would have the glass made in Kentucky. So, okay, that's a thing. Um, I'm still not holding out like expectations that this would last, Maybe it would be a thing for a few years, but probably not indefinitely. Let's see. So, just quickly skimming through. And the thing with Intel, which I don't know if anyone saw this, but Intel's rating, their stock rating also was lowered in the last day or two. Apparently, they're just basically one step above being considered an untrustworthy stock. Which, yikes! That's
anyone paying attention to Intel could have told you that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so weird too, because man, I remember when the new CEO took over and the stock price just skyrocketed for like a week. And ever since then, just absolutely nothing. No one seems to have any faith in Intel, and I kind of see why. Yeah. Okay, so anyway, I don't think you or I really have much to say on the Apple Glass thing after this.
Publicly, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I will say I think this is incredibly disgusting. Just fully eating the boot. We've gone far past licking the boot. The boot is gone. It has been fully consumed. It's gross as someone who has spent a lot of money on Apple products to see this kind of capitulation. It's pretty gross for one of. I don't think they're the richest company on earth anymore, but they've held that spot a couple times, and they're still up there. They absolutely have the resources to have a backbone and push back against some of this nonsense, or fight the Trump administration in courts over their tariffs for whatever good that will do. But instead, Tim Cook is handing a gold trophy to Trump, basically. Well, not basically, literally. Like, it's an actual like trophy thing. So it's gross. Makes me feel gross. It should make Tim Cook feel really gross. I can only imagine what all of the really everyone at Apple who is of a certain political stance, but all the people working at Apple that are the minorities at the Trump administration is trying their hardest to kill, or at least be put into a destitute state. So pretty gross. And also, another sign that everyone feels pretty safe cozying up to the Trump administration under the continuing assumption that nothing will come of it in the future. Like, everyone will kind of just get away with this. There won't be any repercussions for what Meta's doing, and Apple, and Palantir, and all these other large tech companies.
Never ever were, Corbin. If
you
have enough money, you don't ever face you never face true repercussions.
Yeah, it's gross, and I'm absolutely positive that when all is said and done, Tim Cook will write in his autobiography or whatever that, like, oh, this is what I had to do, keep the lights on, everything, and that won't make it better.
So I'm going to go a little bit more nuanced or a little more specific about this. I don't entirely agree in calling all of this gross, because the idea of moving manufacturing of any components into the US, I'm fine with that. I don't have any objection to that at all. In fact, I think certain things actually should be moved into the US, not necessarily for the same or specific reasons, but like I'm
Right, that's not the issue. Yeah.
I'm keenly in favor of moving something like, let's say, chip manufacturing into the U.S. And I don't have any objection to moving the glass manufacturing here. The part I do agree with and find gross is the behavior that's involved here, and basically how it's being communicated, and really just in general, giving a what is very obviously a zero calorie, or sorry, not zero calorie, but a empty calorie version of a win to this administration. This administration is tanking the economy in numerous ways. Their use of tariffs has been completely naive and uninformed, bordering on not bordering on, absolutely childish. And as a result, a lot of people have lost jobs, money, their investments, their retirements. All of this is happening for completely insane reasons.
Or their homes.
Yeah, or their homes.
Like literally, you're in El Salvador now.
Yeah. Well, then you just have a new home. But no. And the mere fact that this bullying tactic of the tariffs is now being rewarded, even if, again, it's kind of a meaningless reward. Yeah, that part I do find gross. But again, I'm fine with the manufacturing moving here, just not all of the things that are happening along with it, and the way that it is being presented.
So I just got another flood warning. So if I drop out, that's why.
Yay!
Because I have all my networking stuff on my UPS now, and I am on a laptop which has its own battery, obviously, but all the like monitors and microphones and stuff is plugged into or on a dock in the wall. So it's not entirely power dropout proof, just close to it. So you'll get Corbin in a dark room on the MacBook webcam. And that's never a good way to see Corbin.
We shall be the judge of that, sir.
Okay. All right. I mean, I could, this light is just USB, so I could do that. Completely dark room except for my face.
Hey,
I'm sure that's not creepy.
Some people do that as like their whole YouTube look.
Yeah.
So let's see. Anyway.
Speaking of
speaking of the Trump administration,
government things.
And this one's a quick thing. Kind of because it's almost funny. If you have ever flown a drone in the United States, or for that matter, really in Canada or most of Western Europe, you've learned at least a few of the major rules. One of the number one rules has always been you cannot fly the drone anywhere that you can't see it with your naked eye, which means you can't fly it too far away from you, and you can't fly it behind things basically at all. There's some like common sense acknowledgments, like, oh, if there's a tree in the way or something, like, nobody cares if you literally lose it for the blink of an eye. Now, realistically, nobody follows this rule. No one has ever followed this rule unless you're like flying right next to somebody who can enforce it. Because people are always flying drones into spots that they can't see them. And drones are, especially these days, getting so small, you can't see them with the naked eye when they are any distance away from you. So yeah, this rule has been pretty ridiculous. Anyway, a apparently the FAA under do they have the name here? Oh, Sean Duffy, or sorry, Sean P. Duffy, who it's now occurring to be, kind of a little too close to P. Diddy. Anyway, Sean P. Duffy has apparently unveiled a new set of rules that he plans to implement or wants to implement that would remove that line of sight requirement. And apparently it's only a partial removal. Like if you're still in certain like high population areas, you're still expected to maintain line of sight. There's still a bunch of rules that would still be in place, so it's not a total removal, but apparently they want to get rid of the line of sight rule. And as someone who has done many drone reviews, and and I live in a place where honestly, like, it only takes a few minutes of driving to get to places where frankly you could walk 5 miles in any direction and not run into another person. When you live in a place like this, you just don't feel all that compelled or to care about the line of sight rule anyway. And when there are mountains and trees that frankly you can still get a signal around or through, and sometimes you just really want to get those good views. Yeah, this is a dumb rule. It has always, or not always, but it's mostly always been a dumb rule. It's time to be done with it. So yeah, look, this administration sucks, but every once in a while, at least the small things they can get right, and this is one thing they can get right. So I'm actually for this. Carson, the Department of Transportation, if I remember correctly, is technically a parent organization of the FAA. I could be wrong on that, but I believe that's how it works.
I would assume so, because planes are transportation.
Yeah. So yeah,
in theory, not so much these days, but
yeah. And Alyssa joking that I'm gonna get a fine. I have not confessed to anything. Note that I very specifically used my language a certain way to make sure I did not confess to anything. I just said I don't agree with the rule. I don't feel compelled to follow it. I didn't say that I have not followed it. So no fines for Cody today. At least not for this. So anyway, yeah, cheers. I actually want to see this happen. Okay, so Corbin, I don't think you're going to have anything to say on this, but would you like to pipe in?
No, just that I know there were a lot of great jokes about people shooting down the drones they see after this news came out that I enjoyed, like ski shooting. Which, yeah, that was like, I know the point of this is to eventually get more deliveries over drones, which
and that was already cleared. They already had the policies in place so that drone deliveries could happen. They had to be piloted by a person, though they were allowed to be semi autonomous. But yeah, they didn't require the pilots to have line of sight. The pilots could actually all be in like effectively the equivalent of a call center and flying those drones. And those particular drones had certain requirements on how they had to be built, what their safety protocols were, and also how they were supposed to be flown. So specifically, they were not allowed to fly over like any roads unless it's literally for crossing. Like if, it take the shortest path to crossing roads and then immediately get away from them, kind of a thing. And obviously, flying over heavily populated spots, like, flying over stadiums, for example. So yeah, they've had a bunch of rules in place already that allowed for the deliveries. This change is, yes, supposedly about innovation, but truthfully, I don't know how much it really is.
It would be really funny for the Amazon drone to fly over, just by chance fly over some stadium where all those uh stupid people with laser pointers already like harassing the whatever players are on the field, and they all turn their laser pointers to the drone instead and make it crash.
I doubt that would do anything to the drone.
Yeah, it would be a very small target to like cover its cameras, but
the drone's flying by GPS anyway.
Mm-hmm. That's no fun. All right, fine. We'll go back to the skeet shooting.
Yeah, skeet shooting's the better one. Anyway, moving on, I'll let you take this one.
So this has been rumored for a long time. I don't remember if OpenAI said they were doing it before this, but like it already also, I think one of the models already leaked a couple days ago. But yesterday, OpenAI released its open source model. This is the first time they've released a AI model as like an open source thing you can run locally on your computer or a server since GPT-2 in 2019. Even though they're called OpenAI, haven't been very open. Now these models that they released two of them. One of them is called GPT OSS 120B. That's a 120 billion parameter version, like a more powerful one if you have the hardware to run it. And they also have a 20 billion parameter model, which is small enough to run on, I think, like a computer with 16 gigs of RAM, something like that. Definitely, like, it's not going to run on like a phone or a tablet, but if you've got like a reasonably powerful laptop or desktop PC, it can probably run on there. They did partner with all of the usual tools for running AI models. So I saw, like, if you have Olama on your computer, you can install it through there. If you have LM Studio, like me, it's just in the list of models now. You can download and run. I did download it and play with it for a little bit, and it seems fine. I haven't really... I don't really, again, use any of these AI chatbot things much because they're pretty stupid, and they're not good at really what I would, they're not really helpful with any of my work, and I obviously like don't have a use for them outside of work. So they're kind of just there. Like sometimes I'll ask it like a coding question if I want to see if it can do better than Googling and going through 10 Stack Overflow answers. But it does have a limited ability for I forget what it's called, but it's the thing where it like processes the same question over and over again to sort of refine its answer. I think sometimes it's called like deep thought, like that kind of mechanism. I believe it has that. Also, the one thing that is disappointing here is these are text only models. These are not multi-model like Meta's Llama models or Google's Gemma models, which are the basis for Gemini. So you can't feed this an image and ask it to do things based on it, which is disappointing because that is one of the like handful of use cases I have for I have Gemma 3, one of the Gemma 3 models on my computer, and I have found a really nice use case where if I'm writing about a product, and they give me a spec sheet that's in like 3 PDFs or something, I can just take a screenshot of it and give it to that, and it'll make the table into like HTML I can copy and paste. That's really nice. But I can't do that with this. So that's disappointing. But yeah, in theory, this should be close to the chat GPT experience, but running locally on your own computer or server. If you want to, ramp up some servers for this, it's another option for all of the applications and server side things that use these models. It's just, you take out Gemma and put this one in and run it. Yeah, I mean, it should be pretty similar. The main difference being that this wouldn't have online searching unless you plug that in with some other method. Like I know you can hook this up to like MCP and have it coordinate with other tools, but yeah, so just something to play with if you want. If you have a decent PC, you can see how it runs. I'm gonna keep one of the Gemma models on my computer because I like my table thing, but yep. That's about it.
Alrighty. So sticking to the we're gonna fly through these. Sticking to the AI subject, but in a much cringier way.
I'm gonna grab water.
Perplexity AI, which some of you may have heard of, is maybe a little on the shady side. Turns out, I hear myself from Corbin's headphones. Yeah, just waiting on that. Okay, good, and the headphones are back on. I could actually hear my voice coming through your headphones.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so anyway, Perplexity AI has apparently been, at least according to Cloudflare, just sort of ninja stealing or crawling websites that have explicitly blocked Perplexity in their robots.txt file. For those that don't know, robots.txt is basically a file that is used for telling crawlers, here's what you should crawl, here's what you can't crawl. And yeah, it's a well-defined protocol. It's what's been in use for at least a couple decades now, and works pretty well. And if I remember, and Corbin, I know you have looked into this extensively. Wasn't there a second file that also was being used, like specifically for AI?
No,
okay.
These bots are supposed to. They're supposed to read the robots.txt file on your domain to understand what they're allowed to use, if any. Pretty much all of them are like opt-outs, so like they won't crawl a site. They'll by default they will crawl the entire internet unless the specific site it visits tells it no. And it's really fun when there's like a new AI thing every month, and so the list of bots you have to keep on top of to block continues growing exponentially, and there's a good chance most of them don't actually respect that.
Mm-hmm.
To quote, I believe it was Captain Barbossa from the Pirates of the Caribbean movie, they're more like guidelines than actual rules.
Yeah.
And the separate file I think you're thinking of is the LLMs .txt,
Probably.
which is something that one of the AI companies came up with. I don't know if it was Perplexity or someone else, but it's like a proposed standard for explaining to LLMs what your site does and how to like index it, but no one's really implemented that, so it doesn't matter. A lot of SEO people will like tell you how important it is for your site to have that, so bots can crawl it, but they're just making shit up.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
They love doing it.
So anyway, Cloudflare has basically been monitoring Perplexity and spotted some pretty shady behavior, including rotating IP addresses, uh, basically ignoring, unsurprisingly, robots.txt, and pretty much doing anything and everything that they can. Of course, bypassing paywalls. They're pretty much just doing whatever the hell they want, which is not surprising because the AI companies have shown that they have about as much restraint as a crack addict in an actual crack factory.
Yeah, many of them are not respecting it because, like, why would they? There's like all that nice data is right there, and who's going to stop them?
Yeah.
We don't have rules anymore. They can do what they want. They can plunder the resources of the world. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But if you pirate a movie, you will die instantly on the spot.
Yes. Yet again,
It's only okay when Mark Zuckerberg does it.
If you have the money, there are no repercussions. That is the deal.
Yeah, so Perplexity sucks. I also saw they just announced a partnership with Truth Social to have like an AI search on there that searches Truth Social stuff. So Perplexity is definitely solidifying its position as the worst AI company, which is saying something because they're all pretty bad at this point.
I mean, I was debating if I wanted to even include it, but I feel like that is still fully in the realm of Elon Musk with Grok.
Yeah, well, I mean, in terms of I don't know. I don't know if there's a good qualifier there. I would say Perplexity is bad in the same terms as what Apple is doing, where it's just like you really didn't have to eat the entire boot like that, but you did. And then Grok is more like, what if I melted everyone's brains all at once? How's that?
Well,
So different, damage versus reputation, I guess.
well, there's that. I was thinking more along the lines of this other thing that just popped up. What was it, yesterday? I think.
Yeah, the Taylor Swift thing.
Yeah, the Taylor Swift thing. Because, look, it's not like I think anybody really expected different on this. Because it's Elon Musk. Of course, he doesn't plan to do anything legitimate, and he wants to basically take on the mantle of world's biggest d-bag from Trump. They're in competition. But yeah, it's not surprising that this would obviously not have safeguards for at least certain people. But yeah, it's plainly obvious Grok is more than happy to basically be as malicious and maligned as possible, which is funny because even Grok sometimes finds his own conscience and decides, you know what, I've been told to say BS, and even I don't agree with it, which is hilarious. But yeah, and
all I'm gonna say is that Twitter has to process payments for their premium thing and for ads. So Visa and MasterCard, you might want to check out what's going on over there. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. Actually, it's a good point. After last week's topic about itch.io, yeah, Visa and
There seem to be
MasterCard
similar things happening over there. Maybe check it out.
Yeah. Actually, that's a fantastic point. Also,
as are all my points.
I would love to see Elon Musk suddenly have to say, you know what, we're going to create our own payment provider, or not payment provider, but
Well, he wanted to do that. He wanted Twitter to be like a bank.
Right, but that was never going to happen. But
Well,
it would be really funny if he's like, Visa, MasterCard, your days are numbered. I'm going to come beat you. Because, yeah, you want to see Elon Musk fail at something, that would be a good one.
yeah. Um, okay, so we're done with uh, m-
Yep.
mostly political talk. You know, obviously, like everything is politics, but we're done with the overt stuff. So going now to the entirely non-political Walt Disney Company. Um, Disney announced that it is going to be fully integrating Disney Plus with Hulu. I saw some people were getting confused about this, which is not at all surprising because I did go back and check earlier today, and Disney sells 10 different subscriptions with Disney Plus. If you count all of the variations of, I'm only like talking about bundles, but like if you count all of the various like Disney Plus, Hulu, ESPN bundles with the HBO Disney Plus Hulu bundles with the Hulu Live TV bundles, that's at least 10. I didn't check like the individual plans. You know, obviously you can sign up for just Disney Plus or just Hulu or whatever. Um, but basically, what's happening here is you may recall. I don't know exactly when it was. I don't think this article says, but okay, it was in the spring of 2024 is when the Disney Plus app uh, fully integrated Hulu content, which means that if you have both services and you log into the Disney Plus app, all of the Hulu stuff is there. So you can just watch it in that app. But that experience that exists right now doesn't include live TV. So you pay for Hulu Live TV, you still have to use the Hulu app. And I don't believe it includes the add on packages in Hulu. Like, if, you know, this was more important 5 or 10 years ago, but you could buy Hulu and then it would have many of the same packages that would be included with like a cable subscription. Like you could subscribe to Stars or I think AMC and HBO back when, you know, HBO was more of a you know, they weren't pushing their own streaming services heavily. Like you could add those and they would show up in the Hulu app. I don't think that's in Disney Plus either. So the news now is that that should all be integrated into Disney Plus in 2026. And some people thought that this meant that like Hulu will entirely go away. That doesn't seem to be the case. Variety quoted a Disney representative saying that customers will still be able to buy a standalone Hulu subscription as well as a standalone Disney Plus plan. I'm assuming that just means that at some point, if you only pay for Hulu, you'll log into the Disney Plus app and it'll be in like a Hulu only mode. Um, that's what that's how, ideally that's how it should work. Like it's just flipping different content categories on and off. Um, but yeah, so I have Disney Plus and Hulu. I have not opened the Hulu app since they merged it, because I don't have the TV or any of the other extras, and the Hulu app has been garbage for as long as I can remember. And the Disney Plus app was always better, so I just watch everything in there, and it's been fine. Um, Alyssa said you need to do a Disney bundle to use it in the Disney Plus app. Um, yeah, like right now, if you have Hulu only, you cannot like log into the Disney Plus app. You would still be going to the dedicated Hulu app, which sounds like it will go away. Which, yeah, I mean, seems fine. The only advantage I can think of right now with the split system is you can kind of max out your streaming profiles more. Like if you tell some people to use the Hulu app and some people to use the Disney Plus app, you can have more maximum profiles across both. But you still have the same limit on simultaneous streams, so it's not that useful. So, yeah, so should be fine. There's a lot of other variables with the TV service that I think ESPN is supposed to have soon, and the other stuff that's going on. But yeah, so should get less annoying if you have both in the near future.
Huh. So, yeah, seems pretty straightforward. I would certainly argue I'm always a fan of just uh at least for apps like this where basically the function is obviously overlapping so much. I'm a fan of just having fewer apps. Um I don't see why they were maintaining the second app even as long as they were. So, yeah, just common sense to me. This should have happened a while ago, but yeah,
Yeah, and
that's about it.
as long as they're making enough, as long as they're producing enough stuff for two services, they will have two subscriptions.
Yeah,
Because they love being able to, I mean, they're double dipping you if you have both in a way that no other media company right now kind of is. Um, at least that I can think of. Um, so yep, so that's that. A quick thing is if you use Safari on a Mac, an iPhone, or an iPad, you now have uBlock Origin. Um,
you can have
the
you log
you can't have, yeah, it's not doesn't come with it, but
it's not getting auto loaded onto your device.
yeah. So uBlock Origin, the classic ad block, content blocker, browser extension. It was in the news for a while because of the changes with Manifest v3 in Chrome browsers, and that was before that kind of happened. They had two versions of the extension. They have uBlock Origin, which is like the full featured one, and they have uBlock Origin Lite, which is as close as they can get to it under the Manifest v3 APIs. So when I tried it, it was pretty similar, but it didn't have stuff like the object picker, like the thing where you can like pick a thing on a page to block it without writing that code yourself, that kind of stuff. Maybe that's changed now, but it's close enough. It's a lot better than nothing. So my understanding is that uBlock Origin Lite, it uses the Manifest v3 web blocking APIs, and my understanding is that Safari's implementation of that had issues, and those were mostly resolved in the most recent iOS and macOS updates, because Safari is included with it's updated along with the operating system. So now it can show up on iPhone and iPad and Mac if you are a Safari person. So yeah, you can go get that from the App Store. It is free, which is nice because I think most of the solutions like this were paid apps or extensions. I believe AdGuard was. I'm not sure about others. I've not looked into it super closely. But yeah, just a nice same uBlock Origin Lite that you may already be using on your computer. And I would use it, except I used Firefox on my iPhone, which cannot use the Safari specific extensions. But this might be enough for me to switch on my phone. I'll think about it. Either this, or I go back to running NextDNS on just my phone. I was using NextDNS on my whole network and on my phone, where it worked on the network level, regardless of what network I was connected to. But then you run into issues like, oh, this app isn't working. Is it because of NextDNS or is it something else? And it's really frustrating. So I've had that turned off for a couple weeks. And it's a good reminder of how terrible the mobile web has become, where there are a shocking number of websites that just make Firefox on my phone just reload like while I'm halfway scrolling. I think because it runs out of RAM and the tab crashes. Um, like it's some websites are atrocious. Um, my favorite example is the fandom wikis. Those are
Yeah.
something else, but there's a lot of websites that are really bad about uh ads where like I cannot find the pages anymore, or they have the tiny close buttons and I tap them and it taps the app instead because I'm sure that was the point. Um, so yeah. So yeah, that's nice. Nice addition for your Apple product. Because iPhones and iPads do not have real browsers, so you could not already install Firefox with its content blocking extensions or other browsers.
And if you are a Safari on Mac user, why? That is all.
I would I've thought about it a couple times when Firefox is being dumb, but I the one thing that the before the current like the upcoming Mac OS update, the one thing that was stopping me is like most of the extensions are missing. And I don't use a lot of them, but it's the fact that Safari's is just so constrained because of Apple's requirement for development that no one does. Like
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be able to use any of my extensions that I make because I'm
Yeah.
not paying the $100 a year to release my extensions for the 5 people that use Safari on a Mac. Um, so that's why I haven't switched to it. But Safari on macOS 26 Tahoe is horrible. Like it's just straight up not readable with like the tab bar and stuff. So that's even further away from me willingly switching to it.
Yeah.
You know.
So
So
let's see. Yeah, I think that's about all there is to say on that one. Um,
yeah,
so
I'll put the apps. It doesn't really show up in search. I think it's still too new. So I'll put the link in the YouTube chat if anyone wants it. Go get it.
yeah. So speaking of links, uh, goo.gl links, infamously Google's link shortener, are gonna be going away. Um, yeah, that's been announced. It was a thing people already knew was going to happen, technically. Though it's coming up real soon. Let's see. I'll let you say the rest because I'm not actually sure what's changing.
Um, so I believe it was at the start of this year, Google said that it was going to fully kill off its link shortener service. This is the service that already it's I don't know exactly when it came out, but I think it was around like 2017 they stopped letting people create new links. So it's been in like a read-only state since then. And they said, I believe at the start of this year, that they would shut down the service in 2025 and all links would break. And that's bad because these links are all over the place. Not so much anymore because again, you haven't been able to create new ones for a very long time. But if you're going through old social media posts or old
Old
papers or
forums.
old forums, old blog posts, a lot of things that were like printed, because the short links are easier to type in the same way as you'd find the QR codes.
Mm-hmm.
Like YouTube videos, like descriptions of YouTube videos are all over those. I just did a search while I was writing this news on GitHub for Google.gl. Those things are all over those repos. So yeah, that would have been very bad. and now they are only going to break some of them. So their criteria, they said, is that if for the links that showed no activity in late 2024 when they were making this decision, those will still be deactivated. Like Google's like, no one's clicking these links, we can just get rid of them. But for the links that are still getting some activity, they will keep working. Which, like, that's better than nothing, but also a lot of those links would be, again, in old documents or repositories or videos or stuff where, like, people might not access it for months or years at a time. um just not the best logic there.
I'm gonna maintain this is so stupid.
Yeah.
Just simply that. This is stupid. I know we've had this exact conversation multiple times in the past, but how much does it really cost to run a server that is it? At this point, we're probably talking about just, for given how Google exists basically around the world, we're not talking about one server. We're probably talking about a few dozen. But can't you just put up a few servers that cover, enough of the world? And let's be honest, these servers don't have to work that hard, because I'm sure Google Links, while, is still expansive, they probably, the amount that they're getting hit is probably relatively low at this stage. Does it really cost Google that much to have a few servers running to keep handling this? I don't
I don't
believe
even
it.
I
Not for a
I don't even,
second.
yeah, this is like one of the cheapest web services to do. It's just you have a database where you have one value for the original links and the other value is the short link, and you just run that somewhere. Because again, like all of the other infrastructure for this is already dead. Like all of the features for making links and tracking the clicks on them, which was another reason this was used in social media posts and blog posts. You could
Yeah,
track
people wanted the
engagement.
analytics.
Yeah, like all that is long gone. So all you need is the redirect, which is the simplest web service you can possibly have. I don't think you could. They could put this on one server somewhere, because like this doesn't need to be fast. Like it just needs to work. If people want a good experience with their links, then they need to update them. But like it just needs to stay alive somewhere, so we're not breaking what I'm sure is millions of links just spread across countless blog posts and videos and documentation, all that stuff. um Especially again because you haven't been able to make new links for forever, so a lot of them, if they get clicks, it's like a couple clicks a year. Like it can't be that frequency on per link. I'm sure there's a couple that just have continued to be reused in relevant stuff, but not the bulk of them.
Okay, I'm going to. Okay, so believe me, will admit right now, I know why they're not about to do, or why they're not willing to do the thing I'm about to suggest. But if they are so determined to shut down these servers, it'd be really cool if they would just open source, not the server, but just that data. Put it on
I Yeah.
GitHub or something like that. Now, full acknowledgement up front, there could be things that would be in that data that maybe you don't want to be
That's what I thought when I
visible
was
with
writing
if
this
you just skim the
news.
list.
I was like, just upload a CSV somewhere. Like that'd be, and then it's like, oh wait, there's probably like some URLs with like hard coded bank info or something in there.
That,
Um,
or
hard coded passwords, all that
uh,
fun stuff.
yeah, that, or you never know if it points to like administrator interfaces that may not be very well protected. It could point to things that give away like how certain how certain things are built, or even it might even reveal like not short codes, but it might reveal URL parameters that bypass certain things. Just using one example that immediately comes to mind. I know of a company where their CMS at least used to, I don't believe it does anymore, but it used to have a URL parameter where you could just simply disable all the ads on the site. And if you know the company I'm likely talking about and you think about how many ads are on that site, that would be a thing a lot of people would appreciate. So, if anyone had ever put that into a URL shortener, which I know a few people did, that would obviously be a pretty handy thing to just have knowledge of. Now, obviously, the company could change the parameter and make all that stuff go away, but which I believe they eventually did anyway. But then you're putting it on the companies and web developers and everyone else to make those types of changes rather than just not releasing a URL. So yeah, I see a lot of reasons why they won't do this or can't do this. I would counter by arguing maybe don't do it for the full list. Do it for just links to very specific sites like GitHub repos. Because you could filter it so it only targets certain things. And GitHub repos, if they're public, that's easily solvable. Maybe you even parse this and figure out which sites and which URLs are pointed to things that are common, acceptable, widely publicized. I mean, we are talking about Google here. It's not like this is a company that literally crawls every single URL it can possibly find. So they have the capacity to do this. And they could filter the list.
This is
at least come up with certain things that should be part of this. But yeah.
Yeah. Or just keep it running, because this is a
keep it running.
Rounding error compared to what YouTube costs. And if the issue is money, then do it like in the old days of file download websites and just put an interstitial ad and be like, you can get to your old link in 5 seconds. Like, they can do that. Google does interstitial ads and other stuff. So just, it's dumb. This is the kind of like really stupid cost cutting stuff where it doesn't really make sense, but they need to find something that is infuriating to watch over and over again. And again, you think about it long enough, if Google is this willing to break old user content, with Google Plus and so on, how long until they do with YouTube? How long until they start deleting old YouTube videos?
I've wondered that for a long time. It just like, does that point ever come where they look at a YouTube video, realize, you know what, this thing's huge, it's taking a ton of space for no real benefit to us, no one has watched it probably ever, and especially nobody watched it in recent time, why keep it? And obviously,
this YouTube video didn't get any views in like 2024, so we're gonna delete it now.
For individual people, obviously the people might have a reason why they want those videos to stay up. Maybe they contain memories, or who knows, maybe it's even the final posts from somebody who is no longer alive. These are all valid reasons why people might want them to stay up, but Google, of course, would have a very obvious incentive to just take it down. And hey, I think if anyone really ever believed that YouTube was forever, that's kind of on you, because no one should just assume that YouTube or any service is forever. That's just foolish. But, how long and at what point will this stuff start happening? And in what way is it going to be handled when it does? Because, I think that day is coming. We just don't have any good indicator for when it's going to be. or what it's going to look like, or is Google going to be quite so dare I say sort of clueless about how they pick things to shut down? I don't know.
It's not gonna be fun. And speaking of things shutting down, we have our last topic here. Very exciting. Um, and it is that Microsoft is ending support for Windows 11 SE, which has only been around for 5 years. This was the weird version of Windows 11. This was not Windows 11 S or Windows S mode, which is the thing where a lot of lower end Windows machines can only install apps from the Microsoft Store, and you have to that one is just like a switch, and you switch it off. It's pretty easy to do, but it's kind of dumb. And this was different. This was essentially Windows, but really only the ability to run web apps. Um, I don't know if it. Yeah, IT admins had to create exceptions for devices to run Windows 32 apps, and Microsoft maintained a strict list of allowed apps for Windows 11 SE. So this was essentially Microsoft's Chrome OS competitor, kind of, sort of. Very low effort one, very different from that concept many years ago of a version of Windows that was fully containerized and built more for the web that I really wanted to happen. Didn't happen. And now this one is dead, which makes sense. I wouldn't want to be an IT admin dealing with this. It sounds not fun. Not fun for the users who are like, why did I buy a Windows computer that can't run Windows software? Um, yeah, so not really a surprise here. I guess just more interesting that Microsoft has still struggled going on over a decade now to uh to kill Chromebooks. I think that should be fairly easy to do because they're not that good. But just can't do it. Windows is still not that fun on low end devices, and they still let every PC OEM go to town on whatever malware they want to include with their computers. So it's still an awful. Not to say that Microsoft doesn't have its own malware, because you go through the setup process for a new Windows computer, and it also like tries to social engineer you into things you shouldn't do. Um,
Like
but
using Edge.
like using Edge, like importing all of your Google data into Edge, uh, just yeah. So not surprising, just kind of interesting. And again, I do wish Microsoft would try to re-engineer Windows in a way that was better for this and other use cases. Like Windows 11 fixed a lot of the usability issues for Windows 10. Like it's a lot more visually consistent, and I think makes more sense in a lot of use cases. They got rid of a lot of the old crap and mostly replaced it, not entirely, but Windows 11 is still, it still has all the same uh, drawbacks as Windows 10 and earlier versions. It's more annoying with all the stuff people don't like. You can still have one malicious application that by default can access like your entire computer, because Windows is now like I think the only operating system, like mainstream operating system, that doesn't have restrictions on file access generally. Like I if you have Linux apps, there are apps that are containerized, but it's not like super common. Mac obviously has the thing where you install an app and it needs to ask for individual permissions for most of your folders, and iPhone and Android also do this. It's We had the whole multi-year migration with Android apps where they've slowly lost their ability to directly access the file system in the interest of security. Um, but Windows still kind of just lets everyone go wild. and leads to a bunch of really annoying things, a bunch of problems that shouldn't exist. Uh, Video games increasingly just having like kernel level rootkits for DRM and anti cheat because like that's the only way to ensure your applications aren't being modified while they're running is to like just dig yourself so deep into the operating system that you run above everything else. Like it's just it really needs a lot of changes that aren't happening, and that's one of many reasons I don't want to use Windows.
You know, it's kind of funny because at one point in history, Windows was sort of famously the OS that had split people further and further from the hardware, and everybody was obviously using Windows APIs, which abstracted things very, very heavily. Now, obviously, all the other operating systems have moved in that same direction, as we expect them to, and Windows kind of has too. But now everyone's building software that specifically bypasses a lot of that so that they can embed themselves so deep in the OS that they're kind of back to those early days where they were doing it as much as possible basically on the metal. Except it's not on it's not on the metal itself, it's sort of on the OS's abstraction of the metal. And they're doing that because if they don't run that low, then something else can, like you said, basically get lower than them. So yeah, that's really a terrible place to be. Microsoft's architecture is getting sketchy as hell. They need to fix this.
Yeah, and even just like again, they still don't really have an answer to Chromebooks, which is fascinating to me. Um, like you can cheap Windows PCs have gotten a lot better in the past 10 years. Like I remember my first job at Office Depot. They sold Chromebooks. I had to be like kind of aware of what was on the floor when people had questions, and it was like the saddest computers you've ever seen. Like that was fully the era of like we're not calling them netbooks anymore, but they
Mm-hmm.
basically still are, but they run full Windows now. So like I have a very distinct memory of like this like a 10 or 11 inch I think it was HP like plastic thing like the computer looks like it would crack if like you looked at it weird, and just store store demo unit, fresh, normal install, nothing's really been done to it, and you'd open file manager and the C drive has like 5 gigs left because they just found like the cheapest low capacity storage you could find. And so that's less common now, thankfully. Like there's a bunch of Windows PCs you can buy that have like that they still skimp out on the storage a little bit. Like a lot of them are still 256 gigs. But 8 gigs of RAM is I very rarely see 4 on like a computer you can buy today. A lot of times it's 8. I've seen some 16 gig RAM laptops in like the 300, 400, $500 range occasionally. The screens are better. Everything's a lot better. They're still, you know, they have other issues because they're Windows computers. They'll skip out on like the keyboard or the trackpad or other things, but it's a lot better than it used to be. You're not restricted to netbooks anymore. Um, but yeah, Alyssa said Windows NT surprisingly has not been replaced after over 30 years. It's got to be 40 now. When was NT? NT 3.1 was like 1991, I think. Um, which was 34 years. Okay. Yeah. I mean I don't think the kernel is necessarily the issue. It's just there's got to be more containerization. Um more containerization, probably other security overhauls, but like I don't think I know some people have talked about the possibility of like Windows switching to like a Linux kernel at some point. I don't think they would do that. I think that they could keep modernizing the Windows NT architecture if they wanted to. They just haven't really done that. They focus on other things.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm gonna just I'm gonna call out um the instinct that anything needs to be quote unquote replaced, because as long as good software development is happening, and I know we're talking about Microsoft, so we're already on kind of a loose edge here,
right.
but
And the kernel people are different from the people who are yelling you to use Edge.
yes,
those
they
are
are.
those are somewhat different teams. Obviously reported to the same people, but
So here's the thing: as long as the kernels are being maintained and improved, and obviously, obviously capable of running on modern hardware, future hardware, and don't get too bogged down trying to run on old hardware. Um, which, as we know, Windows has certainly not even made attempts to run on old hardware lately. Um, yeah, for the most part, I there's no reason to replace it. Anyone saying that Windows NT should be replaced, or the kernel of Windows NT should be replaced, is it like why wouldn't you say that about Linux? Like why shouldn't we
right.
get rid of the Linux kernel? Why shouldn't we get rid of the Unix kernel? Which, okay, there is no such thing as the Unix kernel, but you know,
Right. Linux kernel goes back to the 80s. Mac OS, the current version of Next goes back to the 90s. In terms of like video games, like Unreal Engine goes back to like 98.
mhm.
You know, that this like most technology is not throwing stuff out, especially when it gets as complicated as an operating system. That's just really annoying to replace. So,
Well, and
yeah,
we had the same conversation just last week about web browsers. Browsers are comparable to an OS now, and they're complicated, they're difficult things. Nobody wants to remake one. Well, that's the same deal with OSs. Like the last time anyone made an OS, like an actual new OS, um, depending on how you'd want to define that, you're either talking about one of the mobile OSs from a little over a decade ago. Probably Firefox would have been uh, the Firefox mobile OS. That probably would have been the most recent thing that anyone attempted to make that was an OS. But even that was based on Linux. Android also based on Linux. Uh, iPhone, or iOS, and all of those related things. Those were all based very distantly off of Mac OS, which is itself Unix. Um, like you just have to like poke around at all these things. They're all based off of something else, and that something else is working pretty well, and there's no reason to replace it because as long as it's maintained and modern in itself, there's no reason to replace that thing. It's working fine. So yeah, I don't think there's any reason to replace the NT kernel due to its age. There are other reasons to maybe replace it, but it's not an age thing. uh
yeah. The thing I can see has a decent chance of happening is that eventually Microsoft goes, this costs too much, and we don't really need to do it anymore. We can just be
mhm.
Linux,
Yeah.
exactly like they did with Internet Explorer. So I can see that happening for sure. I think that has a non-zero chance of happening. Um, I the main issue would just be getting decades of Windows drivers to migrate to something else or make some weird shim layer. But um, yeah, I just Windows needs a lot of a lot more uh, containerization and like modern security practices. It's fine in some ways, but just a couple of
Painful in
things really need
others.
to be addressed. Yeah, and it's causing more issues where now they're trying to migrate to a different CPU architecture, and that's harder when Windows applications that kind of just do like whatever they want. There's less of a jail to keep them in and trends like that.
Yeah, which that really has to change in such a deep, deep, fundamental way. That has to change because, uh, it takes us right back to the earlier point of, hey, if games are being shipped with rootkits built into them, like there was a time if you even mentioned doing that, that would have gotten you completely ostracized, and no one would have touched your game or your content or anything like that. Especially after that incident with the Sony CDs, I believe it was Sony, where they had a rootkit on a music CD, which was installing and became a very, very, very easy vector for malware. Um, like that kind of thing is ridiculous. That should not be in a music CD for sure, and it also should not be in a game. Um, and there are definitely ways that they can fix this so that games don't have to ship like that. Which is proven by the fact that most other operating systems have ways of doing exactly that. So,
Right.
um, yeah,
Mac doesn't
let's see
have
that.
games, but it's not for that reason specifically.
Right. Um, because yeah, honestly, you can make an app run in a much more protected fashion on a Mac than it can on Windows. Just plain and simple. Um, and that's not to say that people aren't still going to be able to hack into stuff. They certainly can, but it takes a lot more to do that on a Mac. On Windows, if something is not running with a rootkit, frankly, um, you can access memory of just any app almost freely at will, which is a interesting choice, or an interesting choice to continue to allow.
Yeah.
So anyway, oh, I figured I would quickly make one kind of offhanded call out, but earlier you said, or I think it was you, that said Microsoft has had a decade or over a decade to try to come up with an answer to Chromebooks. I would, I'm gonna just raise the question: do they want to anymore? Chromebooks, if we're being honest, like obviously they're not dead, they're not going away, but I think the interest and popularity of Chromebooks is starting to fade again. Um, and I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about that, but uh, I know schools still use them, but outside of that, it seems like the trend of trying to do the whole dumb terminal thing is starting to fade out again. Not because not because that isn't a desirable uh, thing to do, but because Windows proper, Mac OS proper, and I guess to some extent Linux can all already kind of be run a little bit. I mean, they're not dumb terminals, but they're becoming more capable of functioning as a dumb terminal when anyone wants them to. So, outside of maybe saving a few bucks here and there with a Chromebook, it doesn't seem like they have much of that big incentive anymore. And I I feel like Microsoft
I
doesn't have a reason to try to compete with this market, which may not exist in say 5 years.
I haven't looked at the data for any of this. Um, I m- my my impression is that Chromebooks have somewhat declined in popularity in like general consumers, but they're still pretty strong in schools. And I do think that Microsoft has to try, just because when Chromebooks are used in schools, those kids grow up and continue buying Chromebooks. And now they're locked in to that ecosystem in the same way that Apple did in the 90s. They, are well, 80s, back in the Apple II days,
Well,
proceeding into some of the Mac era.
here's the catch. First, what Apple did failed, just categorically failed. They their attempt at that was comically bad. Kids, first off, grew up with those Apple IIs and 2Es and came away going, these suck. We don't want this. And so they bought Windows. If anything, Apple actually helped drive people away from their computers. And yes, obviously there were other factors like, holy crap, games were just more prevalent on Windows, even at that stage in history. But I don't know that really even holds up with Chromebooks today because, again, sure, some people use them. They don't really feel like anything needs to change, and they're fine with that. But I think a lot of people recognize, oh, if I want to play a game, I need to go get a Windows PC. Yeah, and they're just going to blow off Chromebooks entirely. Like, they're not going to stick with them.
The logins are not the same for sure, because you can there's some degree of non-portability with like Android apps, like those you wouldn't really get on a PC, but
They're not very good on Chrome either.
yeah, and Chrome is the same on every desktop operating system. So definitely
So,
a different story from getting someone hooked on, like, my experience going through the public education system with Windows PCs running Office, a little bit more, restricted in, but like even that is Office is also on Macs. Wasn't really doing a lot, and of course by that, yeah. So
so anyway, yeah, I get the point. I'm not opposed to the logic. I just don't think that it's as effective as Google or anyone else wants it to be. And the mere fact that, like you said, presumably that is the logic, but you and I both have the same perception on this. Chrome OS is still used fairly readily in schools, but once you get outside of the school, people still aren't really buying them, and the interest in buying them has faded. And I think the interest in buying them years ago, like pre-COVID, the interest was sort of the, what do I get my grandparents? Or it was the, I need just a dumb terminal for a kid or something like that, or, come up with something like that. Or obviously there was a narrow group of people that were just like enthusiasts who wanted to try everything and wanted to have a Chrome OS computer just because. Obviously COVID came along, and the reason why a bunch of people got Chrome OS then is because it was low cost comparatively, and it would be more compatible with a lot of the stuff schools were trying to get students to use, so it made sense to get your kid a Chrome OS laptop. Well, most of those are now out of support or about to be. Domestic ownership of Chrome OS is obviously, it just isn't what it used to be. We used to hear all the time about how Chromebooks were topping the Amazon sales charts even before COVID. I don't hear that anymore. And I don't know, maybe it's true, but it doesn't seem like it is. So yeah, I just don't think that this is a market that's going to grow. I think it's going to continue to shrink. And it's going to shrink domestically at first. Maybe schools will keep using them. It is what it is. But I think in homes, people just aren't going to be buying these much longer. And I'm not sure Microsoft has much incentive to try to beat the thing that is already very heavily entrenched in schools and doesn't have a market to sell to in homes or businesses.
Yeah. Well,
That's
I'm
it.
doing
That's it.
I'm doing my part because the Chromebook that my family was using has been slowly falling apart. So I just sent them an old review unit of a PC laptop. So I'm
Nice.
doing my part, which unfortunately I did put Windows on. I do feel bad about that. But the alternative is Linux, and I'm not dealing with the tech support on that.
Exactly.
There's no winning options here.
Ain't that the truth? Um. So yeah, I just honestly, I like this is why I think I think Microsoft is killing Windows 11 SE. Is they've got to be looking at the numbers and just realizing this is a product that exists for a market we don't even care to win anymore, or don't expect to win. So yeah, that's my thinking.
And that's it. And
Yeah,
we're done.
pretty much. So, uh, that was our last topic. If Corbin, do you have anything you would like to bring up? Tell people about, pitch, or discuss.
Tomorrow is, I believe, the second.
It would be
Checking.
the 7th, sir.
No, it's the second anniversary of the space bar.
Ah,
So, I'll put the link in the YouTube chat. Go subscribe. Go put in your email address. It's a fun and easy thrill. Or subscribe to the RSS or the Mastodon or the Blue Sky. But yeah, one of those.
yes. All right. And, well, as usual, I will be back this weekend for some game streams, very likely Overwatch. You never know, maybe some other stuff too. And of course, we will be returning next week with another RambleCast where we will very possibly do, well, Corbin probably won't engage in any pixel predictions, but you never know. I might talk him into it. I won't. I'm not sure we're even going to try talking about that.
Every time you ask me a question, I change to a random topic. I click the random article button on Wikipedia and I start talking about whatever it is. So if it's a demonetizable topic, that's on you. I'm just clicking the button.
See, I was actually going to say, I wonder if I can get Corbin to talk about something that it's either going to get him canceled or feel very, very uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'm clicking the button. I get the list of sexually active popes article. That's on you. I have to talk about it. So on my computer.
I feel like that's a much longer list than anyone wants to consider too. But setting aside that absolutely cringeworthy statement, let's see. So yeah, we'll be back next weekend, or sorry, next week. And come catch me this weekend. But with that, if you've enjoyed the show and would like to support the channel, there are links down below to Cash App, Streamlabs, and Patreon. And of course, huge thanks to Diablo, David, Carson, Austin, and Alyssa. Y'all are awesome. Thank you for being supporters of the channel. And of course, thanks to everyone who came by and was in the chat room today, because we may not respond to everything, but we do read it. Believe me, I've half the time when you see me go silent, or even strangely, sometimes when I'm talking, I've actually gotten pretty good at being able to read while I talk. We do read everything, or at least I do. Corbin does not. He blanks it all out.
I'm here. I was elected to lead, not to read.
Nicely done, sir. But anyway, with that, Thank you all for coming by, hanging out, and we will see you in the next one. Good night, everybody.
Bye.